Hey, a Folk Studio here, and I'm here to give you guys a breakdown of the mid-July League of Legends patch. So let's go ahead, look into the patch notes. I will not be covering the remakes on Evelynn, Twitch, and Zenzao just because I do not know them that in depth. They need to get a lot of play before we can clearly say, oh, this is what's going to happen. But let's go ahead and look through these notes. So first things first, we've got Mythic Cassiopeia and Muay Thai Lee Sin coming out. Mythic Cassiopeia, I'd say, was aimed specifically at the Greek launch event. I know a lot of the summoners who could not actually get into the event but waited in line. I believe they're receiving a free copy of the skin, so shouts to Riot for that. But nice that they're going ahead and going with the culturally favored skin. Cool little thing here. This isn't part of the gameplay, but if you've ever been, queued with somebody and you have a drastic skill difference, it can be awful in normal queue. Like, you can get that one game where it's like you and 4 friends that are better than you or worse than you, and like you get destroyed because they get like 5 amazing guys or 4 okay guys and an amazing guy, but you're worse than the okay guys. I've had it happen to me. It happens to everybody, and it's just not that fun. So I'm glad they're trying to fix it. Just a nice little just bug fix all around too, with some of the profiles showing the actual 5s teams instead of just the pointless ranked 5s rating that is currently there. But Zyra not in this patch. Akali has a bug fix. Evelynn, the remake, I mean, from what I can tell, her numbers are a bit low, so I can't really go into that. But the first real change that is actually kind of significant is going to be Gangplank. So Parlay, it now has the mana cost if you get a last hit with it. So for a champion, for a minion, doesn't really matter. But the big thing is, this is now going to provide a way for him to actually kind of play passively in lane. So think of characters like Jax, like Irelia. They can't really play passively. They don't have a range farming skill. They just have their auto attacks. I guess there's a bit of range with Irelia's ult, and Jax, his Counter-Strike, has a tiny bit of range. But if you want to play passively in just CS as Jax or Irelia, you really don't have that option. I mean, you can try and sustain with lifesteal and Irelia's passive, but it's not that effective. But they have a lot of damage to make up for it. They have amazing damage. They both have hard CCs. Gangplank doesn't. And when he tries to passively farm, the problem he has right now is Parlay just drains his mana. So he now has the option to go for a decent farm. If he gets a Sheen, for example, all of a sudden he can cast Parlay like 8 more times at max rank instead of just 4 times. So it's a really big buff. I don't know if it'll fix Gangplank's inherent problems, just some of the issues he has in terms of late game scaling and really what his role is on a team, but it'll make him more usable. Body Slam and also Sejuani have changes with created terrain. I know Sejuani had an issue where she could actually destroy created terrain, so that is gone. Now you'll just pass through it normally. The smokescreen sight reduction, that's kind of weird. I believe this when you actually leave smokescreen. There's not really a clear message with this because normally when you're in smokescreen, your sight is reduced just to that little area anyways. Kassadin, his Rift Walk is getting buffed. Now what's cool about this is that it almost sounds like a nerf at first, like the damage is getting reduced and the AP ratio is getting increased. But the damage at rank 1 is not changed. So level 1 Kassadin or level 6 Kassadin perfectly fine, the exact same, better. Once you reach level 11 and 16, those rank ups, you will have a worse, base damage, but that higher ratio means if you have 100 AP, like you have done more to make than enough to make up for that damage loss at rank 11, and then you need about 133 by level 16. So this is just to go ahead and make it more aggressive, maybe shift his itemization towards ability power. What a lot of people do with Kassadin right now is just get a lot of mana to begin with to really spam Rift Walk and abuse the damage scaling onto it, but this will allow Kassadin's ability, more ability power items, get more out of it. He already gets a lot, but now he gets even more. I mean, a 0.8 ability power ratio is actually really high. Of course, this comes with the inherent risk of playing Kassadin, meaning you have to go through his laning phase, you have to Rift Walk and not die. That's actually a really hard thing to do. But he's looking good. It's an interesting buff. He's already seen somewhat competitively. This will make him seen more often. Ground Slam. So Riot wants to change the shift of Malphite. Right now you can build a bunch of armor. Your Ground Slam will still do enough damage to be a huge threat later on in the game, especially with Brutal Strikes. Malphite's kind of a leftover character, just his whole kit in general. Like, he has that really strong slow speed up, but Brutal Strikes and I'd say Ground Slam right now are the two very clear remnants. So Brutal Strikes, his W, increases his attack damage and armor by a huge amount. Like it's a really big number, and that's just kind of an odd thing because it's percentage based, meaning it scales throughout the game. It gets better and better and better. And look at like the defensive spells of most characters now. Singe, for example, has just a flat armor bonus on his ultimate. Very few characters just get extra of a stat like Malphite does. And the problem with Ground Slime is, right now you just stack armor, you're scary, you cannot be killed by any physical damage source, and you deal a lot of damage. So ability power is going to be a bit more viable on him now. You do see Abyssals come out on him every now and then. They want to make him a little bit squishier, but still have the potential to do really high damage. And the reduction debuff only being 3 seconds instead of 4 means carries will actually have a chance to auto-attack at some point without having slowed attack vision. Or not attack vision, attack range. Attack speed! Attack speed. It's actually a kind of a big deal for top lane because now a lot more characters can trade with him. Jax, Aurelia will be better against him. They may not necessarily win the lane now, but now they have more options. So these Malzahar changes, there's a lot of changes. These are a ton of changes. So the Voidling change, you can now direct your Voidlings by auto-attacking a target. That extra control is really nice actually because Voidlings actually are quite a bit of damage. Voidlings will also now hide in a brush. That's actually kind of cool. So like lots of just little fixes people have been asking for, and this is the big one. Look at that dance animation. Oh my god, I want to see it. It's going to be awesome off the his hook, off the hook, off that, just anywhere you want to see the word hook. But aside from that, there's a bunch of, just like I said, usability changes. So Call of the Void, right now it has a delay that will actually change, I believe, based off level. So it's kind of just an issue that some Q spells have, which is why like they're mentioning it. Call of the Void is his Q, the 2 walls that will silence people. So I'm glad they're fixing it, because the fact the delay change is actually a big deal, because you know you can't time your skill shots if it's changing all the time. But you know, the fact that you can get the full damage off one cast, like, it's just a bit more usable. It's not necessarily that much better, but if you are new to Malzahar, you'll be much easier at picking him up. Now this actually is a big deal. Null Zone no longer has a cast time. So A, you can use it while moving, like that's what it specifically mentions, but if you want to combo someone down, you know, press WQE and then use your ultimate, you now actually have just more time to do it, because there's no cast time at the W. You can get that spell instantly, immediately followed up with your E and your Q, and like have more of an opportunity to get your combo out before somebody flashes or something like that. Just once again, a usability change with another grasp. Just ignoring orders, a few characters do this. I want to say Garen does this with his E, for example, and characters like Mundo with Burning Agony. They will ignore orders to cancel it for about a second. Maybe half a second in this case with Malzahar's ult. This means you won't just accidentally like right-click really quickly and be screwed. It happens to everybody. It certainly happened to me. I know it's happened to you. But now it's like, it's not a big deal. And I like this. This is actually a nice little change because, you know, Voidlings, like I said, do a lot of damage. 80 Malzahar just got better. Morgana is going to be a bit easier to gank early on in the game. So that shield was never really used for the damage reduction. It was used for the just CC blocking at the early portions of the game. Now, she doesn't have that luxury. Now you can actually gank Morgana. So a character like Maokai, for example, Twisted Advance has a long cooldown early on in the game. He now has the opportunity to go ahead, Twisted Advance, disengage, and Morgana, her Black Shield will not be up at rank 1 by the time Twisted Advance comes back up. So you have a lot more potential to actually gank that mid lane to shut down Morgana more. And I don't want to give a clear statement on this one because I'm not super positive. I want to say that this means like if you ever like flashed away from Morgana at the last second and her leash still hit you, I believe that will still be possible, but that time span will be shorter. So, gonna keep going. Orianna, attack range fixed. That's kind of just a little bug they're fixing up. I do like the ability power ratio being increased. That means for command attack, and it's about where it was before. So she really has a lot of pain, but now she's more usable based off the last patch. And Shockwave stuns enemies that were in the middle of movement skill. This just means movement skills will be interrupted. So it's very specific to like a Corki Valkyrie, for example. You are now guaranteed to pull that down with a Shockwave, which doesn't make that much sense. But Sona, she gets a bit more aggressive with her skills. So the global cooldown to 0.5 seconds instead of 2 seconds. What this really means is, as Sona, you have like a 6-second window to cast all of your spells before the first one you cast comes back up. Now that may not sound like a big deal, but really what it means is you're no longer about just kind of shifting through your spells, keeping all your auras up. You're all about just kind of spamming them in a small little window because you can. Like, you have more control, but you have less aura. So there's less passive going out there, more aggression. I do not know how this will affect her. I mean, the auras are really good, but they may not necessarily be the biggest deal. And of course, you will always have the passive aura still on, like from the last spell you cast. This is only for the spells you'd already shifted from. The aura will change. So I don't know if I like it, but so where she is right now, she's just kind of a poke champion. People don't really think about the auras. Now you have a bit more control. Now you don't just like shift through all your spells. You can time them as appropriately needed. So Key Strike, reduced damage. It may not seem like a huge number, just 6 to 4, but realize this will be 36 damage at max rank. So Shen, he's actually dependent on Key Strike for quite a bit of damage. Not a huge deal though. He'll be fine. Tristana's Explosive Shot. Oops, I shifted to the left. There we go. Unfortunately, you can no longer rocket jump into a pack of minions where a champion is standing, kill them with rocket jump, proc Explosive Shot, and murder them instantly. So that sucks. Twitch remake, I don't want to go into it. So Acid Hunter, Urgot getting changed. His base damage is no longer going to factor into Acid Hunter. So it's going from 10 damage or 10 base damage, but a bonus from all of his auto attack damage, to just bonus auto attack damage, but a higher base damage. So if you start with, like, let's say 60 attack damage with plus 10 from runes and masteries, it's going to be pretty good for Urgot. It's actually a really high damage change for him overall. Like, he will deal a lot more damage later on in the game. Earlier on, this is meant to go ahead and curb that early game burst, but I mean, the question is, will it in the end? Because if you get 15 AD from runes and masteries, which is fairly common, Urgot's still going to have a solid 67 damage-ish Acid Hunter, which before would be really about where he was at. So I don't know. This change is interesting. I do not know if it will have the intended effect or if it really have that much of an effect. But now, if you really want to increase the damage of Acid Hunter, you can't just go tank Urgot. You got to go ahead and keep going with it, because it no longer scales just from leveling. Corrosive Charge, no longer as useful earlier on. This just means he's weaker in lane. So Acid Hunter has a shorter lock-on range. Corrosive Charge has a longer cooldown and shorter cast range. This is just going to make it so that you cannot just like constantly spam Corrosive Charge and just hope to kill someone with that pick-off, which is good. It's a good thing. But right now, I mean, Urgot, you see him banned all the time just because of how dominant he is. And there's one thing that makes him dominant too, how good he is at setting up ganks. So Hyperkinetic Position Reverser, his ultimate, now has a reduced cast range at lower levels. So he's not going to be someone who can start a gank from out of auto attack range. That 700 range, Jesus. You can no longer set up a gank from out of auto attack range. You have to go ahead and get closer. So there's more reaction time. There's a bit more counterplay involved. You can still set up ganks really well. 550 range is really high. And of course, once you hit level 11, same deal. You're back to 700. But he no longer has free gank setups. This is actually a Sanguine Pool. The reason it has a speed increase in the first place is an animation thing, just to make it look much smoother. That's, I mean, going to be reduced over time. They don't want to make it too strong because of the attack animation. This was something that got fixed a while ago, and fixed I'm putting in quotation marks, but this just means that Xerath is going to be back to what he was before, really. He's just going to be a better character now, just more of a burst caster with long range rather than a Kog'Maw-style constantly sieging AP character. The problem before was you couldn't get enough of his ultimates off during a stun, and because of that, you know, that's a lot of your damage not being used. Okay, Zhen Zhao. Remake. Don't know it, man. I actually had no idea that Yorick's passive reduced true damage, but Yorick just got a little worse against Cho'Gath. What do you know? What do you know, man? That's actually a nice little, it's a nice little nerf because it makes a lot more characters stronger against him, but Yorick should still be fine top lane. Satchel Charge, it has a lower cooldown at level 1. I mean, a 30-second cooldown for what amounts to a blink slash just kind of disengage is massive, so I'm glad they're doing that. The Summoner's Rift outer vision range thing. So there's going to be a few entrances in mid lane specifically that you won't be able to use to get into the enemy jungle. Before, you could go ahead and sneak in through a few paths. Now that's not going to be an option, so it actually limits some of the gank entrances, and it will have a bit of an effect on play, but mostly just like you can place a ward in a more aggressive spot and not worry about the mid laner or jungler being able to slip by it by them going by your turret. Twisted tree line changes. What? Who cares? Heart of Gold. Oops. Lower HP. Good change. Everybody buys Heart of Gold. Now they're trying to make it more what it should be, which is these the GP5 items aren't necessarily that much better than are actually that efficient, but they provide the gold. So I mean, 200 HP is not a lot of HP. A ruby crystal is 475, so you're buying the GP 10 portion of a Heart of Gold now when you upgrade it. The same kind of goes for Philosopher's Stone, reducing the HP regeneration. The mana, I'm glad they're keeping it because it lets you be aggressive. And this change right here, where all those items are going to go ahead and have their tooltips updated to show how much gold you've earned from them. All I can say is they will be nerfing GP 10s even more in the future. But yeah, aside from that, there's some really cool bug fixes in general over here. Get rid of that quote. So, spectator stuff is always good. If you ever watched a tournament or a cast and somebody's playing a spectator mode and you just see like an announcement stuck in the middle of the screen and you can't get rid of it for the entire game, that's gone now. God, that was so annoying. That's the same bug right there. Oh, when you reconnect, ghost minions, they're gone. Untargetable towers, no, they're still targetable now. Hooray! And when you disconnect the game, it'll just reconnect automatically, because if you're disconnecting, you probably still want to play anyways. But this has been Studio with a patch notes breakdown. I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, I'll see you guys next patch notes. If you don't follow me already, I am on Twitter at League of Studio, and I just do a LoL series right now. Or just go ahead and analyze higher level replays. You can go ahead and check me out on this YouTube channel. Aside from that, I actually have started streaming on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/SovietWaffle. So you can go ahead and check me out there. But yeah, adios folks, and see you on the field of justice.